Welcome to English storytelling. The first time she heard her own voice in English, she felt surprised, not because it was bad, but because it did not sound like the voice she imagined in her head. In her mind, her English was clear and calm, but when she listened back, the accent felt strong, uneven, and unfamiliar. That moment stayed with her longer than she expected, and it quietly changed the way she thought about learning English. She had studied English for years. She knew grammar rules, she understood texts, she could explain ideas in simple words. But the accent felt like a wall she could not move. Every time she spoke, she felt it standing between her and the listener. People understood her, but not easily. They listened with effort, and she could feel that effort. At first, she tried to ignore it. She told herself that accent was not important, that meaning mattered more. But deep inside, she knew that sound mattered too. Not because she wanted to sound perfect, but because she wanted her words to arrive gently, without resistance. One day, while listening to a British voice telling a simple story, she noticed something different. The speaker did not sound loud or strong. The voice was soft, relaxed, and steady. The words flowed into each other like they belonged together. She understood every sentence, and more importantly, she felt calm while listening. That calm feeling stayed with her. She realized that a good accent does not push itself forward. It invites the listener in. It makes understanding feel easy. So she changed her approach. She stopped chasing difficult words. She stopped repeating fast sentences. Instead, she focused on listening, real listening. She listened to how sentences started and ended. She noticed the pauses. She noticed how some sounds disappeared and others softened. English was not sharp. It was smooth. She practiced quietly, often alone. She repeated short sentences, not many times, but carefully. She paid attention to her breathing. When she rushed, her accent became heavy. When she slowed down, English felt lighter in her mouth. There were moments of frustration. Days when nothing sounded right. Days when she felt she was going backwards, but she did not stop. She learned that accent does not change loudly. It changes in silence, in small daily moments. Slowly, something shifted. She began to think less about individual sounds and more about rhythm. English stopped feeling like separate words and started feeling like a line moving forward. When she spoke, she no longer fought the language, she followed it. One afternoon, during a simple conversation, she noticed something new. The other person did not interrupt. They did not ask her to repeat. They responded naturally without pause. The conversation flowed, and only later did she realize why. Her accent was no longer blocking the meaning. That moment did not feel dramatic. It felt quiet and real, and that made it powerful. She understood then that mastering an accent is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming clear. It is about letting your voice sit comfortably inside the language. She still had an accent. It did not disappear, but it worked with English now, not against it. Her voice sounded calmer because she felt calmer. She trusted simple sentences. She trusted silence. She trusted herself. As time passed, English became less of a performance and more of a presence. She did not prepare every sentence in her head anymore. She spoke, and the words came. Not perfect, but honest. Now, When she listens to British voices, she listens like a learner and like a friend. She lets the sound guide her, not control her. She knows the journey is not finished, and it never will be. Accent grows as you grow, and if someone asked her what changed everything, she would not say practice or talent. She would say patience. She would say listening. She would say the courage to keep speaking even when her voice did not sound right yet. Because one day, without warning, English stopped feeling foreign. And in that moment, she realized she had not mastered the accent. She had mastered her relationship with the language. That realization stayed with her longer than she expected. She carried it with her into every conversation, every quiet moment when she listened. She no longer asked herself if her accent was good or bad. Instead, she asked a simpler question. Does my voice feel calm right now? She began to notice how much her accent changed with her emotions. When she felt nervous, her words became tight. Sounds came out too fast, too sharp. But when she felt relaxed, when she allowed herself to pause, English softened naturally. It was not something she forced. It happened on its own. This taught her an important lesson. Accent was not only about sound, it was about state of mind. If her mind rushed, her accent rushed. If her mind slowed down, English followed. So she started building small rituals before speaking. She took a breath, just one. Not deep, not dramatic, enough to remind her body that there was no danger. She learned that speaking English was not a test, it was a conversation. She also stopped apologizing for her English. In the past, she often started sentences with "Sorry, my English is not good." Now she let that sentence disappear. She spoke without warning, without excuses. And something changed in the listener too. People listened differently when she trusted her own voice. There were moments when she surprised herself. Words came out smoothly, without planning. She heard herself using rhythm, stress, and pauses naturally. These moments did not last forever, but they returned more often than before. She understood then that accent mastery is not a destination, it is a balance you visit again and again. Some days you find it easily, other days you lose it. What matters is knowing how to return. Listening remained her strongest tool, not just listening to English, but listening to herself. She learned to recognize tension in her jaw, in her shoulders. When tension appeared, her accent suffered. When she relaxed her body, English flowed. She stopped practicing accents in front of mirrors. She stopped exaggerating sounds. British English did not ask for effort, it asked for ease. The more she tried, the worse it sounded. The less she forced, the better it became. One quiet morning, she walked through the city with headphones on, listening to a simple English story. The voice was gentle, the pace was slow. She did not repeat the sentences, she just listened. And suddenly, she felt something strange. The voice felt close, almost inside her. It did not feel foreign anymore. That feeling stayed with her the whole day. When she spoke later, her English carried the same calm rhythm. She realized that accent is contagious. What you listen to shapes how you speak. Over time, she became careful with what voices she allowed into her ears. She chose clarity over speed, calm over excitement, voices that respected silence, voices that did not rush. She also learned that mastering an accent does not mean avoiding mistakes. Mistakes still happened. Words were mispronounced, stress fell on the wrong syllable, but these mistakes no longer stopped her. She corrected them gently, or let them pass. Confidence, she learned, does not come from sounding perfect. It comes from continuing even when you sound imperfect. As weeks turned into months, English stopped feeling like something separate from her. It became part of her thinking. Sometimes she even dreamed in English. Not clearly, not fully, but enough to surprise her. She remembered the early days. Again, the fear of phone calls, the stress of introductions, the silence she chose instead of speaking. Those memories felt distant now, like another version of herself. Yet she did not judge that version. She understood her. She knew how hard it was to speak when your voice did not feel safe. Now, her voice felt safer, not because others accepted it, but because she did. She noticed something else too. When she spoke calmly, people responded calmly, conversations slowed down, misunderstandings decreased. Accent was not only about being understood, it was about creating space for understanding. Sometimes people asked her where she learned English. She smiled and said, by listening. They often looked surprised. They expected a school, a course, a country, but listening had been her real teacher. She listened to stories, not lessons. She listened to voices, not rules. Grammar improved naturally, because sound led the way. She stopped chasing fluency. She chased comfort instead, and fluency followed. One evening, she recorded her voice again, like she did long ago. She listened without fear. She heard growth. Not dramatic, not perfect, but real. The rhythm was there. The calm was there. Her voice sounded like it belonged. She closed her eyes and smiled softly, not because she had reached the end, but because she was no longer lost. Accent mastery, she realized, is learning how to stay present while speaking, not running ahead, not hiding behind silence, just being there. And if someone were listening to her story now, she would want them to understand one simple truth. You do not need to fix your accent, you need to understand it. Work with it. Be patient with it. Your voice carries your journey. Do not erase it. Guide it. English does not ask for perfection. It asks for honesty. And when you give it that slowly, quietly, it gives you something back, a voice that feels like home. If you have stayed with this story until now, it means something inside you is already listening differently. Not just to English, but to yourself. Most people stop early. They look for fast results, quick tricks, perfect sounds, but you stayed, and that tells a deeper story. She wants you to know that the moment you start caring about how English feels in your body, not just how it sounds in your ears, everything begins to change. Accent is not built in the mouth alone. It is built in patience, in attention, in the quiet decision to continue, even when progress feels invisible. There will be days when your English feels heavy again, days when old sounds return and confidence feels far away. Do not see those days as failure. They are part of the rhythm, just like English itself. Learning moves forward and back. What matters is that you do not leave the language when it feels uncomfortable. She learned that the voice you want already exists inside you. It is not something you need to create from nothing. It appears when you slow down, when you breathe, when you stop trying to impress and start trying to connect. If you listen closely, you will hear it too. in small moments, in one clear sentence, in a pause that feels natural, in a word that lands softly instead of falling hard. These moments are quiet, but they are real. Do not wait to sound perfect before you speak. Perfect does not build mastery, presence does. Speak when you are ready and speak when you are not. Each time you choose to use your voice, you teach it where it belongs. Remember this: a strong accent does not push, it invites. It allows the listener to relax. It allows you to relax too. When you stop fighting your sound, English stops fighting you back. You do not need to sound British to master a British accent. You need to understand the calm, the rhythm, the space between words. Let English breathe through you, not over you. One day, without a clear sign, you will notice that people understand you easily. Conversations will flow, silence will feel comfortable, and in that moment, you may realize something important. The fear that once controlled your voice no longer has power. That is when you know the journey is working. So keep listening, keep speaking, keep trusting small progress. Accent mastery is not loud, it is gentle. It grows while you live your life, not while you chase it. And when you finish this story, do not think of it as an ending. Think of it as a reminder. Your English voice is already on its way. All it needs now is time and your permission to be heard.